Today we talk about a real-time strategy game where you collect resources, build infrastructure, and fight enemies in a barren landscape. No, not Age of Empires 2. This is specifically a Norse high fantasy game. Okay, no, you play as an individual, so not Northgard. No, not Valheim either. It's a real-time strategy game. My name is Harvey Bodega, and welcome to Hinterland. Hinterland is a top-down real-time strategy city builder released in September of 2008, developed and published by Tilted Mill Entertainment. Named in honor of Don Quixote, not a mill that rage quits during ranked games. Tilted Mill was created by Chris Beatrice and Peter Hoffenrefer in 2002 after the closure of Impression Software, a development company known for strategy and business simulation games like Caesar, Pharaoh, Zeus, Master of Olympus, and Emperor, Rise of the Middle Kingdom. They had been purchased by Sierra Online, of King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry fame, who would then get purchased, dissolved and reformed, and merged 86 different ways. This led to Impression being closed by its parent company's parent company, Vivendi Universal. Formed from those ashes, Tilted Mill released 6 games and several expansions between 2004 and 2009, all receiving very average reviews, then they sort of disappeared. We haven't gotten a game promised in 2013 and their website is down, so I think it's fair to say that they're finished. Like their other titles, Hinterland received average reviews, in one of those increasingly rare times that users and critics on Metacritic agreed. This is a rating I like to call the D's get degrees, or the 2/3 good rating, but we'll see if that assessment is fair. The premise is you create a character who is hired by the king to manage a village in a hostile wasteland. You're meant to survive, expand, and earn victory by defeating enemy bases. For being released in 2008, the graphics are subpar. I mean, 2004's Warhammer 40k Dawn of War looks almost as good, let alone 2008's Command & Conquer Red Alert 3 or Sins of a Solar Empire. The animations are simplistic and sometimes ridiculous. You can't natively play in proper widescreen unless you want the game to look like this, and there are very few character portraits. But the thing that bothers me most is the lack of creativity. Like Ohio, the environment is a dull brown-green, filled with creatures who want you dead, but still somehow looks boring. Most of the creatures seem uninspired or unimaginative. I will say the troll looks good, although its audio callout is ugh. And I like the gnoll, throwback to my Heroes of Might and Magic days, Fortress players bless up, but look at the orcs. Why do they look like blue gorillas? Despite a setting with huge creative potential, it's underwhelming. The 2D art is good and kind of disturbing, but only pops up in loading screens. Audio is mostly just serviceable. Generic, occasionally grating environmental sounds and character callouts fill the air as you gallivant across the countryside, eradicating native cultures and wildlife for the resources. I could complain about the lack of over-the-top classic RTS callouts, but I covered that in my Northgard video, so I'll hold my tongue. This time. I'd say the music is the strongest part of the presentation. While lacking a ton of tracks and not the most memorable, they have more character than generic adventuring music, and a few are fairly rousing. So with the presentation not being so good, let's jump into the gameplay. Starting a new game begins with character creation options. Pick a name, a character background, and choose from a pool of portraits that change depending on your other options. That is nice, but there are very few, and I describe some of them as very ugly. The only gameplay impact here is your background. How impactful is it? Great question. What is the difference between average and good equipment? How does lower fame hurt me? How long will poor starting resources set me back? Have fun figuring that all out, as it's all trial and error, but you will notice different backgrounds change the point multiplier at the bottom, just like difficulty options. So that is something that can help indicate higher or lower difficulty at least. The journeyman or journeywoman is the base background, and that can help you get a lay of the land. Once your character is finished, start the game, and after a series of loading screens where you can appreciate the 2D art, your hinterland is created. Start by selecting your first skills, which also take place upon level ups. You get 2 skills each time, the first allowing an increase of either attack, defense, or health, but the second may have a city building impact, like more food per day or upgrades costing less. Okay, all that explanation, and we're just at the start of the game, so let me quickly run through the user interface. Top right is your character and their equipment, which you can switch out by click dragging. Left is people currently visiting your town. Top is resources. Money to do basically anything, food to not starve, and fame, which is how much the king likes you. If this gets too low, you won't be able to hire some visitors or you'll get fired, resulting in a game over. The last is town level, a measurement of quality of life. With your people being attacked by hostile creatures and starving to death, the least you can do is provide them a place to get drunk. To the right of town level is an open space that fills in as you unlock resources. The bottom has your and your town's inventories, and buttons to see your followers, your town, or the entire region. On this region map, each icon other than your town represents enemy encampments to fight. Every single icon. Some are just settlements, but others guard resources like stone, iron, herbs, fresh water, etc. that are necessary for certain buildings and upgrades. Building requires providing visitors a place to apply their trade, like farmers, craftsmen, necromancers, all the usual stuff. There is a fairly clear progression as to which visitors you need in the early game, but as you progress, you branch out more and can upgrade some buildings, unlocking other upgrades, research, or increasing benefits. Those that can research unlock better equipment, consumables, and other bonuses. But as you are locked into an indentured servitude to your lord the king, he demands stuff from you every once in a while. Fulfill these and your fame increases. Ignore these and your fame decreases, lose enough fame, and you're fired. That's city management in Hinterland, but development requires a lot of bloodshed. Most of your time is spent killing things in the wilderness, but if they kill you, you lose increasing amounts of fame and are dumped back at your base. Your buddies don't get the same privilege if you choose to take them with you. Those assholes mostly just die on you. Do you believe that? Anyway, since you're probably wondering how combat works, I have collected some of the most exciting clips to show you the system. Here goes. You click on enemies to attack until they die, then click on the next enemy or run away. Calling this a combat system would be generous. It's mostly baiting an enemy away from their camp, murdering them in the bushes, then rinse and repeating until the camp is empty. Combat does come to you, though. 2 to 4 enemies will spawn out of enemy bases and run towards your city, and you and your townspeople must defend what's yours. This continues until you destroy all enemy bases, which is actually how you win. Sure, eradicating everything you come across can earn you fame, money, equipment, raise your score, etc., but only clearing those bases will earn victory. These mechanics are easy to pick up. I mean, if you can click on things, you already know the combat, but many are subject to RNG. RNG, or random number generator systems, are a way for something as precise as a computer to create believable spontaneity. You've got an alien you're trying to shoot in XCOM, a random number generator determines if your shot hits or flies into the next zip code. Most games partially limit these randomizations, like Age of Empires 2 random starting locations with a restriction on how close they can be to one another. Hinterland's RNG systems have limits designed to make things more fair and fun, but many don't go far enough. Like visitors are random, and at the beginning, only 2 arrive at a time. To get the game started, you really need food and an inn, but RNG may only bring late-game visitors you can't hire. While you can send visitors away to make room for others, or pay a small fee for a new set, you can't prevent certain visitors from coming altogether, and re-rolling can be a frustrating waste of money. The specific resources needed in the early game, like iron, fresh water, herbs, or wild game, can be right next door, or the opposite edge of the hinterland, guarded by absurdly strong enemies. While you can purchase sources of some resources, it's very expensive, and not all of them are available this way. The king's requests are randomized as well. On one hand, he may ask for things you can't at all reasonably acquire and you just take the fame penalty, while on the other hand, he might ask for things you can fulfill immediately because you already have them. This just comes down to luck. All of these can line up in your favor for a relatively easy game, or you can be set up for almost certain failure. RNGesus giveth, and he taketh away. Getting crushed by randomization is definitely frustrating, but the first of my 2 main gameplay critiques is the travel time. You spend a ton of time running back and forth, pick off enemies one by one, then slowly regain your health in town. Having healing potions allows you to stay abroad slaying monsters for longer, and there are portals that teleport you back and forth from your base, which are wonderful. It's just that healing potions can be rare, and portal locations are randomized with enemies defending them, so there'll still be a ton of running back and forth. My second main critique is the lack of depth. This is not Total War. The upgrading, level up system, research, equipment, combat, and looting systems are all very shallow. Hinterland's focus is on combat, not heavy management nor deep RPG systems. So if it has shallow combat, shallow RPG systems, and shallow city building mechanics, then what's the deal? Does it just suck? Well, maybe, but I think Hinterland is more like a roguelike. Roguelikes don't have to be fair or balanced. They don't need the deepest systems, but emphasize challenge. Hinterland is an unfair fight against a hostile environment, or hostile RNG systems, and like many good roguelikes, I found myself trying to come up with ways to overcome the game's frustrations and difficulty. Sure, some of the best strategies are tedious, but little accomplishments are hugely satisfying. Did you use 4 health potions to pick off one powerful enemy? That could have been a waste, or you could have gotten a piece of equipment that would carry you through much of the game. That part is great, and it makes a huge difference. There is a point where basically you and your city reach a critical mass where you can't lose, but still have to go through and formally win, but thankfully that stage isn't very long. Sure, the strategic potential and mechanical depth are simple, but I ended up enjoying it when I considered it more like a roguelike. I just wish combat wasn't so uninteresting. If it reminds me of Planescape Torment's combat, then I know it isn't good. While Hinterland has a charm, it's very apparent that it's missing a lot. How about a story, a campaign, multiplayer, or mods? While I know almost nothing about mods, I do know that this game would hugely benefit from some quality of life tweaks. Proper full screen resolution and the option to zoom out alone would make this game much more user-friendly. Well, I couldn't find any mods, and I highly doubt it'll ever be getting a remaster. That being said, Hinterland is fun as an interesting mix of roguelite, RTS, city builder, and adventure RPG, but it really is a master of none. It feels as if one more big update to iron out a few bugs, add more depth, and pretty the place up a little bit would have greatly improved the game we got. Though I don't give numerical scores on games I review, I'm uncomfortable to admit that I'd agree with the Metacritic consensus. Hinterland is 2/3 good. As for the recommendation, it's $10 on Steam. That's worth it if you want to replay it a bunch of times and see what the game has to offer, but way overpriced to just try it out and get bored. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching. My name is Harvey Bodega. Between videos, I post memes on my Twitter, linked in the description, as well as a hint for the next game I'll cover 2 days before the video goes live. For whoever guesses correctly first, I'd love to consider a request for a game to review on the channel. Anyway, thanks again everyone, and may the doves of heaven forever poop on your windshield. Thanks a lot.